How goes it? Another week. Beautiful Sunday afternoon here. We got neighbors out cutting grass, enjoying some time in the yard. We got all kinds of stuff happening. Super fun. No complaints. It's a beautiful day. We just got done playing. The boys played some football. We got a lot of people out on the water. It feels kind of like that. Summer doesn't want to leave us. It's going to be in the 80s. It's going to be beautiful. Callie's out there running around chasing frogs, and we got everybody out enjoying this beautiful weather. So we chased some fish this week. We went all over the place. We found some patterns. I shouldn't even use the word pattern, to be honest, because I couldn't find any consistencies other than chatterbaits catch a lot of fish and a lot of pike, a lot of bass wherever we went. So I guess maybe there's a lure specific pattern, but in terms of where we caught them, man, we caught them up inside dock lines in 18 inches of water. We caught them in 8-9 feet of water. We caught them in 4, 5, 6 feet of water. We caught them in weeds. We caught them on sand. We caught them in rocks. We caught them all over the place. These fish, I think, are spreading out this time of year. We're seeing some water temps back into the low 70s, upper 60s. Each morning we start the day, we're at about 67, 68 degrees. And then by the time we end in the afternoon, like right now, you're seeing the water temps drop back up into 71, 72 degrees. So it is quite interesting to see some of this kind of stall a little bit. But the fish, they're moving around. You saw me post the other day, yesterday I made a comment on Facebook that said, they're hungry, keep it moving or keep moving. And I meant as they're hitting these reaction baits, we are catching fish on lures that are moving. So that's why I think the chatterbait's really starting to turn on. We threw the all-terrain swim jig quite a bit, but that bladed jig, that chatterbait seemed to catch fish and caught us some of our bigger fish. We did hit some metro area lakes here with a handful of our all-terrain and Blackfish staff members and pros to collect some assets. And I know Nipper did well throwing a jig, pitch, or like on a spinning rod, like a light hair jig or even a light jig worm. He did well in that 8 to 12 foot range. So again, we're not out deep. I think some of our hardcore summer patterns are, no pun intended, behind us on the lake and behind us on the calendar. And we're starting to move shallower. As I see this week progress, I bet you we continue to move shallower and shallower and continue to chase down fish. And the reason I think that's going to happen is if you look at our temperature patterns, a lot of guys and gals are saying, well, yeah, man, we're still seeing upper 70s and 80-degree weather, and we're outside with our shirts off, and kids are still attempting to swim, and we're seeing wakeboarders and all that good stuff. But what you're not paying attention to, that we don't have to play a factor in the summer, is look at our lows, and look at how long it stays around that temperature. We've all seen it to where you can turn your air off at night. A month ago, when it was going to be in the 80s for highs, a lot of us still kept our air conditioning on at night because it never got below 65 or 70 throughout the night. So those water temps really weren't hit drastically. Right now, we're waking up in the morning and it's 50 degrees outside, 52 degrees outside. I'm even looking at some 40s for lows this coming week. If you don't think that drops the water temperature, you're lying to yourself. And if you don't think that stalls everything out, because if you look at those low temperatures, not until about 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning does it start to warm up. Today we had a football game for Jack. His game was at 1 o'clock. We wore a sweatshirt until about 1:30, 2 o'clock. Even though it was going to hit 75 degrees today, it's still cold much of the day. We're losing sunlight. The sun's not as intense. So that's playing a role on some of these water temperatures, and we got to think about those sorts of things. Like I was saying, we are catching fish. We're just throwing chatterbaits. This is a fun way just to go fishing. You heard me last week talk about we're just going to go fishing. And again, that's what we're doing. I'm just throwing beautiful chatterbait. This one actually had a painted blade. Now it's beat up. This was a green pumpkin jackhammer. It's not all beat up. That's how many times it's taken a pike or been beat up on there. And I'm throwing a minnow bait in the back of that, but that seems to be the ticket here. The last few times out is we're just chucking this chatterbait, covering water, covering ground, having some fun, and going fishing. And it's caught us pike, it's caught us bass, it's caught us muskie when we were up at the cabin, it's caught us all kinds of fish. That bait will even catch you walleyes. We've caught many walleyes on a chatterbait over the years. None this late summer yet, but you'll catch them on that if they're hungry and they're in the area. Just a really fun way to catch fish and go fishing. The other jig we throw is an all-terrain swim jig. I thought I had a few here. Probably put them all on the boat. But another one is the all-terrain swim jig. That catches a bunch of fish too. Another way you can just cast and retrieve, cover water. So if I'm playing in the weeds still, like a lot of our lakes still have weeds, good weed growth, I may not throw the chatterbait as much and I'll go to a swim jig because it falls through the weeds easier. I can pull it through. It doesn't pick up as many weeds. The chatterbait, when it falls up, doesn't run light. And that's the purpose of that chatterbait, is to get that vibrating blade, that moving blade to entice and trigger these fish to bite. So if I'm constantly snagging weeds, or I got weeds floating on the surface because they're broken up this time of year, weeds start to die off, and a lot of times they float on the surface and these chatterbaits will pick it right up. Then I will absolutely turn to the swim jig, and the swim jig can be fished cast and retrieve bait just the same, or I can let it go into a pocket, or I can skip it under a dock, or I can pulse it and work it like a crankbait. Same thing with the chatterbait. There's various ways to fish these lures. It's not just a cast and retrieve system. I can throw some of these depending on the weight. I can fish a 3/8 ounce, I can fish a 1/2 ounce, I can fish a 3/4 ounce and fish it deep and fish it in heavier cover. So there's a lot of ways to fish these lures. So take into account the body of water you're fishing, what the weed growth is like, all that sort of stuff, water clarity, time of day. Those are ways to catch some fish. We also caught some fish on some buzzbaits. Super fun this time of year. Right away in the morning, they're eating the buzzbait. I threw a frog a bunch today, or I shouldn't say I didn't throw it much today, but this week I did throw it a handful of times. Got a couple fish to go up on it. I'm not crushing them on a frog yet. I anticipate that changing. They'll start to make those shallow movements and start to hold a little more, follow the bait fish, and do those sorts of things. I anticipate this week we're going to probably flip a jig a bit. We're going to change our position, probably fish a jig, probably fish a chatterbait or a swim jig as well. Maybe throw a crank. We'll see what's going on. Maybe skip some docks. The dock bite should turn on here if it hasn't already. I'm not fishing a lot of docks. I generally have clients in the boat and 2, 3, 4 people in the boat at once skipping docks. Anyone that's out there knows that can be tough, and you just really don't put 2 people in position to catch fish because 1 or 2 people are kind of in the hot seat. So I tend to pull out onto these main lake weed flats, 4 to 8 feet of water right now. It seems to be key, and just go fishing, cover water, cast, and catch some fish and have some fun. So I anticipate to see water temps just slowly drop some more. We're going to drop probably into the upper 60s again each night here, 66 to 69 degrees I would guess. And we're still going to flirt with 70, 71 in these afternoons. It looks like it's going to be a very stable week weather-wise. Slight chance of rain here and there, but for the most part, comfortable week to be on the water. Should be a good time to go out and fish. Pike are chowing, bass are still biting. I've been lazy, haven't fished walleyes, haven't fished panfish, but there's a lot of fish to be had. So get out there, chase some fish, throw on a sweatshirt, rely on your Blackfish gear, and hey, let's continue to enjoy the last remaining days of summer as we move towards fall. And they really put their feed bags on. I'm looking for big, fat, and sassy fish here over the next month. I hope you are too. So get out there, catch some fish, and save some for me, and enjoy the fall season. Take care.